Good Monday morning. It's July 13th. I hope your day is off to a great start coming off that weekend. Here in Hampton Roads, we finally got a break from the heat. Yesterday, low 80s. Today, we're staying in the low 80s. But other parts of the country have been dealing with more heat and more storminess. We're going to have a wrap up. In fact, some of the warmest temperatures ever recorded for some locations out west, including Salt Lake City. And they've been keeping records there, I believe, since 1876. So some long-standing record heat has fallen as the temperatures have been sweltering out west. We've got more heat and severe weather coming up later today for parts of the country. We're going to talk about that with the severe weather outlook. And a really unusual place bracing for severe weather tomorrow. Place that doesn't typically see what we're going to potentially deal with tomorrow. I'll break that out for you coming up in just a few moments here. In addition, finally, Typhoon Bavi has come ashore. It happened over the weekend in China along the coast here. We'll talk about its impacts on parts of Asia and, again, passing just to the north of Taiwan. We also have some global issues with wildfires. There's some wildfires burning around Paris, and then heat creating a big problem for a region of Italy. And that may have some impacts to your bottom line as you have to buy groceries, if you enjoy Italian food. There's one thing in particular that's being heavily impacted right now by the heat there in Italy. And we'll talk about that and how that may impact what you have to pay for some of your favorite food on your table. In addition to that, a whale shark sighting off of Virginia Beach. We're talking about a 30-footer. This thing massive. We'll talk about where it was and what the fishermen thought they were seeing and what they saw as the thing appeared. And then another heat wave. That's going to be coming back to Hampton Roads as well. We're going to deal with another round of sweltering heat, not unlike what we dealt with around the 4th of July, if you remember how hot that was. So a lot to talk about from the weather desk today, and we're going to jump in with a look at the highs yesterday. I mentioned record heat out there. How about Billings? 111, 109 in Salt Lake City. You know, they say it's a dry heat, but that is still a lot of heat out there in the Salt Lake Valley. I used to work out there from 94 to 1997. I worked with the CBS affiliate KUTV, and out there, I'll tell you, just beautiful country. You could deal with some of the warmer readings because it is a little bit drier, but when you get up over 100, it is tough. And again, they're not used to having that kind of heat there in the Salt Lake Valley. Down to the south, Vegas, more typical to see temperatures over 100. They got up to 107, 109 in Phoenix. Just a lot of heat out west. And look at the heat back across Bismarck, Minneapolis up to 90. There is more trouble with heat for that part of the country coming up later today. We can take a look at the outlooks. These are heat alerts that are in place, and I want to show you again Southern California from San Diego through Oceanside, LA back to Santa Barbara up through San Luis Obispo, all of them under extreme heat watch. The heat warnings continue for the Salt Lake Valley off to the north up through Ogden. You can see areas in Wyoming, northwest Colorado, back into southeastern Idaho, much of southern Montana, all of North Dakota, and so much of Minnesota, including Minneapolis, western parts of Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan under extreme heat warning. There's a watch over there for the Detroit area, and then heading back into the northeast U.S., we have more heat advisories. So a lot going on across the country. I want to show you, again, not only the extreme heat, but other areas hit by more storms. This extreme heat is going to be felt by millions from the southwest, as I just showed you, all the way through the upper Midwest and eventually the Northeast. Some areas set to hit triple digits once again. Meanwhile, other places across the country still cleaning up from intense storms. Here's ABC's Hannah Battah with a closer look.
This morning, a state of emergency declared in Philadelphia after fast-moving microburst storms tore through the city.
We saw utility poles literally split in half like matchsticks.
Straight-line wind gusts of up to 70 miles per hour, ripping roofs off buildings and downing hundreds of trees. many landing on cars.
It was shocking because the car just got paid off.
In Missouri, at least one person is dead and more than 350 people had to be rescued after 6 to 12 inches of rain triggered flash flooding. Black Hawk helicopters were brought in to rescue more than 200 children and staff from a summer camp.
One of the cabins, you couldn't even see because you could only see the tippy top of the roof.
You just feel so helpless as a parent.
The National Weather Service calling it a once-in-a-thousand-years event. Parts of Tennessee and Louisiana also inundated. One person using a paddleboard to navigate the streets near New Orleans. Meanwhile, in the West, a dangerous heat dome is on the move. After fueling wildfires like the 2,700-acre Summit Fire northeast of Los Angeles, the heat expanding eastward, setting records from Utah to Montana. New all-time highs were set in Salt Lake City, where the temperature hit 109, and in Billings, Montana, which hit 111 degrees. International Falls, Minnesota, on the Canadian border, could see its first 100-degree day in more than a century. Hannah Battah, ABC News, New York.
That is wild to think about International Falls possibly seeing 100 degrees. Hasn't happened in more than a century, as you just heard. Taking a look at the national picture here, still some showers kind of hit and miss out across Nevada, parts of the southwest from Arizona into Southern California, a little bit just to the south of San Francisco. We've got some scattered wet weather across Texas, more showers along the Gulf Coast over to the Florida Panhandle. And then we've got our little areas of wet weather back across Carolinas, back up into the western part of Virginia. Some more unsettled weather just off to the north. Now, the severe weather outlook for today, really not a lot going on so much today. You can see there's a marginal risk up over western Montana, and you can see a little bit down around South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. Could see some storms. Winds are going to be the primary concerns. Not worried about tornadoes today for either one of those locations. Hail also not a big concern. There's a lot of energy working towards the northeast. Remember that. We're going to take a closer look at that. And we've got, again, this dome of very warm air, this ridge and this heat dome building across North Dakota into Minnesota as this frontal boundary lifts to the north. But I want to key on the severe weather outlook again with this energy right here spinning and moving down to the southeast. It's going to pull across the east, and that's going to set up a potential hot zone for storms here in the northeast. So while there's a marginal risk again tomorrow for Montana, this is the area I really want to key on. Look at this. There's an enhanced risk, a level 3 threat for severe weather. Parts of extreme northern New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, they don't typically see this kind of a threat. And you can see, again, it is not just gusty winds. Certainly, there is a well-elevated risk of strong, powerful, gusty, damaging winds. There could also be some large hail from Burlington over to Bangor and off to the northern sections of Maine as well. But there's also a second kind of elevated tier for tornadoes. And you just don't commonly think about tornadoes in Maine that often. I mean, tornadoes happen in all of the states. We can get them anywhere, but it's pretty rare that they get them right along the Canadian tier here. So we're going to be watching the severe weather potential up into Quebec. So we're going to be watching all of that as we move along. Right now, we're going to take a short break. Coming up, we'll have the details on the tropics and Typhoon Bavi batters China and Taiwan, where the storm is now and the threat still lingering. Plus, one of Italy's most iconic staples is under risk. How extreme weather could impact the cost of your next dinner. Welcome back. It's time to update you on the tropics. And I want to start by showing you again sea surface temperatures. Plenty of heat here for tropical systems to work with as we come into the busier months here in the Atlantic basin. You might typically expect that. But we've got a couple of things working against us. One, that developing super El Nino. Again, it is going to be powerful. El Ninos disrupt tropical development. Typically, we get shearing winds in some of these areas where we typically find more breeding or development of these tropical systems. So as they try to come together, a lot of times winds kind of shear them apart before they can really do anything. The other thing is we've been monitoring a lot of Saharan dust coming off the coast of Africa and working across the main development region. So while sea surface temperatures are warm, things like those disruptive winds and the Saharan dust will continue to play, and that's why it looks like our tropical season should be a little bit easier. Don't drop your guard. It only takes one storm to develop and come into your region to make it like the worst that you can remember on record, right? We want folks to be mindful of this. We do have more Saharan dust set to come across. You'll notice a little break, though, by that third week of July, around the 22nd, 23rd. We may get a break from the dust and some of that drier air coming in. Nothing is set to really develop at this point. You can see in the Gulf, a little bit of cloud cover in the north. This is associated with the frontal boundary that's down there, but nothing organized in the Gulf. Across the Caribbean, we also have some convection just off to the north of Panama and along the southern part of the Caribbean, but the main development region is all clear right now, and no tropical activity is expected over the next 7 days. In the eastern Pacific, I do want to talk to you about that because we've got some areas that are more likely to develop. In fact, this area down here near the Mexican coastline, there is a good chance of development. I'll come back to that in a moment. We also have a couple areas south of Hawaii that are going to stay there, another cluster that we're monitoring. So several areas. This is the outlook. You can see these two areas shaded in orange, and this one over here shaded in orange, all with moderate chances of development. This one a 60% chance for development, this one a 50% chance, and this has a 40% chance. These two staying south of Hawaii. This one only a 10% chance. But this area right here, just off to the north of this one, this area in here has a 90% chance for development over the coming week. The good news is it looks like it's far enough off the coast of Mexico where the main impacts will stay offshore, so we're not overly concerned about anything immediately impacting land right now, but this is producing some storminess off the Mexican coastline, so we'll continue to watch that. Now we're going to talk about Bavi, and this system again came through, and I'll show you the path on this because it cut up and made landfall over the weekend here along the Chinese coast, and it is now actually pulling back off to the north and kind of turning back to the northeast. That is the center of where Bavi is right now. We've been watching this. Look at the track that this thing came. Remember, it came very close to Guam, just really hitting Guam, but passing the center just to the north of it. So it had some big impacts on the islands there, and then it came in passing north of Taiwan. I want to show you some video there. Typhoon Bavi has brought a tremendous amount of rain and strong winds to China and then northern sections of Taiwan as well. The storm made landfall in eastern China on Sunday. More than 2 million people were evacuated so far. There are no reports of death or injuries with Bavi. That is fantastic. Bavi is the strongest storm to hit mainland China so far this year. The typhoon also brought rough surf and downpours to Taiwan. About 9,000 people were evacuated with schools and businesses closed across much of the region. This morning, damage reports still coming in, but officials warn flooding and landslides are a continued risk. As we take a look here, we'll just show you again that landfall there just to the south of Wenling, and then it moved inland. This was the track Sunday, and now you can see it's turning to the north as it went yesterday afternoon, and now set to move to the northeast this afternoon. So that's what's happening with Bavi. And one more last look as it's starting to make that turn back to the northeast. It will continue off in this direction. Still a big rainmaker, but it has lost its maximum winds. It's down to like 25, maybe 30 mile per hour gusts. So not as big a wind maker. That's good news. All right, while we're staying overseas, let's turn our attention to Europe, and specifically around France and Paris. French firefighters are battling a massive blaze just to the south of Paris. According to a CNN affiliate in the region, nearly 2,000 acres have burned in the Fontainebleau forest, and this video showing firefighting planes scooping water from the River Seine as part of the efforts to get the fire under control. The French Interior Minister says police are investigating whether the fire was started deliberately. All right, and we're also going to talk some heat now. So, you know, Paris and the Bordeaux region, they've been dealing with warm weather. Not as terribly bad as it was about a week ago, but Madrid still seeing some pretty hot conditions. It is hotter to the south, as you can see, but we're going to focus on Italy. You see Rome right now 91 degrees. That's a current temperature. The northern region of Italy and the iconic Parmesan cheese, this region, the growing region to the north, is feeling the impact of extreme heat. We're talking about the Emilia-Romagna region. Record temperatures are taking a toll on dairy farms as they produce the Parmigiano and Reggiano. Farmers say that the heat is stressing cows, causing them to eat less and produce up to 10% less milk. To keep up, farmers are using fans and cooling systems, but that's driving up energy costs. Even storage facilities where cheese ages for years are seeing spikes in power use. The Parmigiano Reggiano industry generates an estimated $4.5 billion in revenue each year. Experts warn if extreme heat continues, that this could impact both supply and price of the cheese worldwide. Pretty crazy to think about that, but it's all related. Now, as we turn our attention to another part of the world, we're going to talk summer skiing. And remember, our summer here where it's hot is the coldest time down south. So we're going to talk about this. The Andes Mountains in Chile are struggling with a lack of snow. The region remains in a years-long drought, leaving conditions far from ideal for skiers. In fact, some of the main resorts have been forced to close nearly 90% of their slopes. Experts say climate change is part of the problem. So we talk about our snow droughts up here. They've got them down south in Chile as well. All right, a rare massive sight off Virginia Beach, a whale shark spotted just miles offshore. Hear from the boat captain who saw it up close next. Welcome back to the Weather Desk. Check out this rare sight off the Virginia Beach coast. An estimated 30-foot long whale shark swam alongside a fishing boat about 18 miles offshore. Lauren Haley Morris spoke with the boat captain about the experience.
With 7 years of fishing and boat tours in Virginia Beach,
I've always, loved the water.
Captain Charlie thought he'd seen it all until last week.
I run a lot of these trips and, this doesn't happen.
On a weekly flounder fishing trip, he had this. Oh my God. Just 18 miles offshore.
We were on the way back in, and I saw the dorsal and the tail fin from a distance, and it was pretty calm. So I just thought it was like a basking shark or something like that. We kind of pulled alongside it, like with some safe distance, of course. It swam past, and then that's when we saw that it was a whale shark.
The estimated 30-foot whale shark was quite unexpected. Captain Charlie says it's typical to see larger species on longer trips, some of those trips being 17 hours.
That's when you see some of these pelagics, more of like the offshore species of dolphins, whales, things like that. It's uncommon to see a whale shark, though, at any distance.
Making this friendly appearance special for the captain and his guest.
34 people on the boat. I couldn't really believe that it was a whale shark. It was really cool to see. You don't see them around here, and you especially don't see them, 18 miles.
So cool to see that. All right, quick heads up to boaters. You've got small craft advisories to deal with today. Winds still blowing from the east at about 10 to 15, gusting to 20 knots on the bay, and 15-knot winds gusting to 20 on the ocean. The sea is 4 to 5 feet. It's a little rough out there. We'll show you the surf right now at the ocean front. This is our Thompson Creek Window Company Skyview. You can see the flags, the American flags, blowing there in the wind. Again, not a bad day at the ocean front, but it is a rough one, and I do want to give you a heads up that we do have a high threat of rip currents. So got to listen to lifeguards. They may tell you to stay out of the water. You definitely need to listen to them. Surf height 3 to 5 feet, water temperature 77, and the UV index is moderate. While we do have a lot of cloud cover, there'll be a few peaks of sunshine every now and then. All right, yesterday's high was 82. Get ready. It's all going to change. I'll tell you about a warm-up coming up after the break. Welcome back. We're going to take a look at the forecast for Hampton Roads. Not bad today. Low 80 skies, mostly cloudy for a while, but there'll be some sunshine trying to peek through. The big news is that we're getting ready for another heat wave. Tomorrow up to 86. We'll see temperatures in the mid to upper 90s Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. A run of very hot conditions coming up through the weekend. Then we'll drop back below average to get into the middle of next week. Right now, just a few sprinkles down to the south. This stuff's going to be moving out as we go along. Things are going to be improving with drier conditions, but still a few showers down to the south. Want to make sure everybody knows that activity will be winding down. All right, we've got a lot of sunshine coming up Tuesday through the weekend. By Saturday night, a chance for showers or storms overnight, and maybe a few more Sunday afternoon. I hope you've enjoyed this edition of The Weather Desk. We'll see you next time.